Hello everyone, welcome back. I got some really good ones for you today on this Friday, February 9th, 2024. A lot's been going on with the markets, and that's what we're going to be focusing on for today's video. So welcome back. Glad you made it. Glad we could hang out together. Happy Friday, by the way. And let's dive right into these markets, shall we? We'll start with the Fed interest rate expectations. Let's roll the clock back to October of 2023, guys, October of last year. That's when the narrative changed, okay? That's when the Fed started to telegraph to the markets that we were done with interest rate hikes and we were moving into an easing cycle, interest rate cuts. So starting in October of last year, that's really what unleashed the bulls, this stampede of bulls, pushing all three major stock indices to all-time record highs. You know, it was that pivot in Fed policy. It was that beginning to ease and ending of interest rate hikes. So the tightening cycle that the Fed embarked on, like back in 2021, you know, that ended in October of last year, you guys. It looks like now we're in an easing cycle and we haven't begun to cut interest rates yet, but the market has already started to price that in, and that's why you're seeing these animal spirits in the market. So the market trying to price in interest rate cuts. When, you know, how many? Is it going to be 3 interest rate cuts for 2024? Is it going to be 7? Are they going to start in May? Are they going to start in June? In my opinion, you guys, we're going to have 3 to 4 interest rate cuts this year. The first one starting in May or June. I'm not alone in that assessment. We have Goldman Sachs right now predicting 125 basis point cut to the Fed funds rate beginning in May. Morgan Stanley predicting 100 basis point cut beginning in June. JP Morgan 125 basis point cut beginning in June. So you see these commercial banks, investment banks all kind of taking a stab at when they think we're going to officially begin the easing cycle, but it looks like May or June, you guys. I think 7 interest rate cuts would be too much. You know, inflation is still a problem. So 7 cuts would weaken the dollar too much and really stoke too much inflation, and the Fed is still trying to get inflation down to their 2% target. They're not going to, okay? If you read between the lines, the Fed is in no hurry to get inflation back down to 2%. And if they were, they would keep raising interest rates, but they've stopped. So if you read between the lines, the Fed's going to let the economy run hot. They're going to let inflation remain sticky. You know, they've been telling you in the MSMO, you're getting deflation, like inflation's coming down. You're not getting deflation, guys. You're getting maybe a little bit of disinflation. So that rate of inflation is slowing. Instead of 9% year over year inflation, it's more like, you know, getting stuck at about 3, 4, 5%. And that looks to be, you know, what the Fed's aiming to accomplish. Weaken that dollar, keep the beast system propped up, keep devaluing that $34 trillion debt, you know. Wild, you guys. But look for 3 to 4 interest rate cuts for 2024 and look for them to start as early as May. Moving on to the bond market, we have the 10-year yield right now hanging out at 4.17%. That 2-year yield hanging out at 4.48%. So inverted yield curve. You can check out the last video. Talked about the inverted yield curve as a leading indicator for recession. Kind of discussed the caveats around that, but the yield curve remains inverted. That 10-year yield remains a little bit high for my liking. You know, I'm surprised that the 10-year yield can hang out here at about 4.17%. The stock market just doesn't care. You know, normally those yields, I figured above 4% would maybe kind of put some downward pressure on the 3 major stock indices, downward pressure on oil, gold, Bitcoin, but we haven't seen it, you guys. Market's really looking to shrug off these this 10-year yield hanging out at 4.17%. If you're bullish markets, you want to see that 10-year yield come down, and if you're bearish markets, you think the stock market's going to give some back, maybe cough up 10-20%, then you want to see that 10-year yield move up. So moving on to the stock market, the S&P 500 right now hanging out at 5,024. That's epic, you guys. All-time record high for the S&P 500. NASDAQ hanging out at around 16,000. You know, NVIDIA, a component of the NASDAQ, NVIDIA tech stock, you can take a look at. The market cap is now larger than the entire Chinese stock market, you guys. That is just wild and out of control. So that NASDAQ, which has a lot of tech stocks that don't pay much in terms of dividends, you know, that NASDAQ really being pumped higher by these mega cap tech stocks like NVIDIA, Meta, Apple, Microsoft. You know, we just had Apple release their Vision Pro. I think, you know, it has all the hallmarks of first-gen technology, so it's a little bit heavy, a little bit too expensive, not a lot of supporting apps, not a lot of battery life there. But guys, look into your hazy crystal ball. Where do you think the Apple Vision Pro is going to be in another 5 or 6 iterations? You know, compare the first iPod to what we got now. Compare the first iPhone to what we got now. So good to see Apple getting involved in the metaverse, AI, augmented reality VR kind of world. Not really so much AI, but certainly augmented reality and VR. And Apple is definitely going to play the AI game, okay, guys? That AI theme remains in place, but so does the metaverse theme. Look at Apple's new headset, you know? So the Apple Vision Pro, very interesting. Haven't tried it out yet, but I do have an Oculus Quest 2 from Meta. It still says on the box Facebook, because Facebook hadn't even changed its name to Meta yet when I bought that Oculus Quest 2. So more like, you know, it's a novelty. It's more like a soda drinking hat. It's cool. I do spend some time on it, but, you know, we're waiting for improvements, right? And in the strap or the battery life. So all good things coming for Apple and their VR Quest. You know, Tim Cook said a couple of years ago, we don't want to be first to the market. We don't mind being second, third, or fourth. We just want to get it right. So now we have Apple kind of moving in to compete with Meta as far as augmented reality VR. You know, good to see Apple fighting the good fight, and I can't wait to see where the Apple Vision Pro is in 3 or 4 more years from now, you guys. That's when I'm going to be buying one, okay? So not interested in the $3,500 first gen Apple Vision Pro, but hey, give them a chance to work the kinks out. So yeah, great things going on in tech. You know, we remain fans of mega cap tech on this channel. We like the Apples, Amazons, Googles, Microsofts of the world. You know, Microsoft not so much, because just even though Bill Gates isn't the CEO of Microsoft anymore, I just, you know, I don't like Bill Gates. I don't like Mark Zuckerberg either, but I will not bet against these people. So I won't short them, but I would rather own, you know, like Nvidia, Amazon, Google, Tesla, Apple over like Microsoft or Meta. But hey, I'll leave that to you. And Meta did put on like a 20% gain last week. It was wild, you guys. So Mark Zuckerberg's still pulling rabbits out of the hat. Do not bet against that guy, even if you don't like him. He's very smart. Yeah, that reptilian lizard man, he'll eat your lunch if you're not careful. So if you don't like the guy, just avoid, but certainly don't bet against him. And you know, if you're betting with him, it's kind of like Elon Musk. If you bet with him, you have a lot of haters, but you make a lot of money. So I'll leave that to you. But anyway, the NASDAQ hanging out at 16,000, that tech-heavy NASDAQ. We got the Dow Jones right now at 38,650. This is wild, you guys. So a very frothy, inflated, corrupt financial system, and then a real economy that's just been trying to play catch-up the entire time. So I do see economic activity outside my window, and when I drive around, I do, you know, unemployment right now is at like 50-year lows, but it's not so much a very strong real economy as it is everybody going from 2 jobs to 3 jobs just to afford groceries. You know, it's that theme of the real economy just trying to play catch up and repair their blown out margins, while the financial system just leads the charge in inflation. Inflation is good for stock prices. I can't believe I was getting, you know, pushback for making that statement like a year and a half ago when inflation was destroying the stock market, right? Remember that narrative that inflation was getting so bad that it was going to, you know, start to erode profit margins for businesses and create demand destruction. Yeah, how'd that go? No. In my opinion, one of the most brain dead assumptions you can make about markets, which these markets are complex adaptive systems and the rules of the game change as we play, but one of the most tried and true, hard and fast things you could say about markets is inflation is good for stock prices. So there you go. Inflation's good for stock prices. Moving on to crypto, we have Bitcoin right now hanging out at 47,000. Good to see, you know, fans of Bitcoin and Ethereum on this channel. We'll see if Bitcoin takes a stab at 50,000. You know, it's going to be pretty tough resistance, but if we blow through 50,000, it could be, you know, all-time highs for Bitcoin shortly after. And if I had heard me saying this 6 months ago, I would have been in complete disbelief, you know? So Bitcoin doing its job as a speculative token, which is as much damage to as many players as it can at once all the time, you know, kind of like with gold. She's a real siren. She lures you onto the rocks with her song. You know, she sings your song and then you get lured and crashed onto the rocks because, you know, up is down and down is up with those speculative tokens. But we do like Bitcoin on this channel. We do like Ethereum. So it's great to see those cryptos doing well. And then we have Solana looking to be the most viable ETH killer, in my opinion. Solana hanging out right now around 108 a coin, moving up to about a $50 billion market cap. You know, it's still 5-6 times smaller than Ethereum, but it looks like Solana would be your most viable ETH killer at the moment. Developer activity has completely exploded in Solana. So you can take a look at Solana if you'd like, or not. I am bullish and constructive on some of these other altcoins like Solana, like Chainlink, like Avalanche, Pepe, all things you can take a look at, or not. But let me know what you guys think. What do you see for Bitcoin targets? Do you, medium term and then long term? So do you think we're going to hit like Bitcoin 75,000 this year? And do you think we're going to ultimately hit $1 million a coin in maybe 5-10 years? Like, let me know what you guys think for Bitcoin. But I remain bullish and constructive. Keep on stacking those sats. All good things. Shipping in the Red Sea right now down 20 to 30% month over month. That's pretty wild. We have the H's, the Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah all looking to kind of resist, fight back against the West. This is kind of disrupting trade and shipping. Could stoke a little bit of inflation now that a lot of the goods and the products that we import from other countries, well, now they have to go the long way, you guys. They can't go through the Red Sea and take the shortcut. They have to go all the way down around Africa. That adds costs to the shipping. Those costs ultimately get passed off onto the consumer. But I already see this playing out. The mainstream media, they're going to say things like, oh, yep, blame the Houthis for inflation. But really, it's the Fed having surrendered in their fight against inflation back in October. We're done fighting against inflation, you guys. The Fed's going to let inflation run hot. That's the real core driver of inflation, not short-term disruptions in supply chains. But this geopolitical situation does continue to spiral out of control, as the DJs in the 1970s would say, the hits just keep on coming. So we had the U.S. striking the Houthis trying to hit all these ships that are going into the Red Sea. I see it getting worse, you guys. The beast system feeding, the beast system's favorite meals being human flesh from war and then meat of the middle class. I've said that before. And so the beast system will continue to feed as we bankroll these wars, and it pumps our GDP, you guys. So if you're seeing these really awesome GDP prints and you're like, I'm not convinced the real economy is doing that well. Yeah, well, you're getting that GDP print from the beast system, from Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin. They're not the only ones benefiting, guys. The Dow Jones components really benefit from more. Hate to say it, but it kind of is what it is, and looks like we're going to be getting more of it as time goes on. The mainstream media right now on the back foot because old Tucker Carlson went over to the Kremlin in Moscow and did a 2-hour interview with Putin on February 6th. I just watched that interview, you guys. I'd recommend the same for you. It's wild that we've gone years. We're like years into these wars, and we've never even heard Putin's voice. It's like the mainstream corporate mockingbird horror media just wants to say Putin's evil, but don't go over there and hear his voice or get his perspective on anything. Just listen to us and let us control the narrative. Well, it looks like Tucker kind of broke with that, went over there to practice, I guess, real journalism to try to get both sides of the story so that people could make up their own mind. And man, the mainstream media is just losing their minds over that. But whatever. The mainstream media has been dying now for last 5 or 10 years. Last couple of years especially. Who would have thought that they would lose support after gaslighting us over regularly scheduled experimental injections and inflation we weren't going to see? And they just lie and lie and lie and lie. One of the reasons I started this channel. So we're all doing our part, I guess. But I'm glad that Tucker went over there to someone has to be a journalist here in the West, right? So good for him, but he's really shaking things up. So yeah, that's really all I got for you guys for right now. We'll reconvene as things progress. Thanks for hanging out with me, and let me know what you guys think, in the comments about Tucker interviewing Putin. Am I right over the target, or am I off base? Am I really just a Putin apologist for defending Tucker? Let me know what you think in the comments. But I'm not a Putin apologist, you guys. I'm not really, politically motivated here, and I'm not going to be a big fan of Tucker Carlson on this channel. I'm just letting you guys know that the global order is getting shaken up, and real narratives are starting to spill out everywhere, or fake narrative to fight the real narrative, and what up is down and down is up, and Tucker's in there just shaking it up, and all CNN, Fox, CBS, MSNBC, all they can do is just refresh their Twitter feed and wait to see what Tucker Carlson has figured out for them. So you see, guys, things are really changing, you know. But hey, it's all good in the hood, and we're just going to keep going, all right? Till next time.